Hey fellow babies, welcome back to this week's Pachter Factor on Sifted.net for premium subscribers, on YouTube a week later if you are not a Sifted.net premium subscriber. Our first question comes from Sifted, from Max Pugo. What price will Nintendo charge for its NX at launch? If it is really a console and handheld hybrid with industry-leading chips, can it be priced less than $400? And who will buy NX except Nintendo enthusiasts for that price, assuming the massive install base of the PS4 and Xbox One by then? All right, I'm not putting this card down because that's so many questions I have to go back to them and hit them one at a time. What price will Nintendo charge for the NX at launch? I have no freaking clue. Tell me what it is, tell me what it looks like, tell me what chipset's in it, and I'll make a guess. My guess is $300 because I don't think Nintendo has the balls to charge more than $300. I think the Wii U was a disaster at $349. I think they will price this thing at $299. Keep in mind that the PS4 and the Xbox One will very likely be $299 by fall of 16, and I'm not even sure this thing's coming in fall of 16, so it's going to be hard. If Nintendo's priced above them and it doesn't do a lot more than them, they aren't selling very many. I think the lower the price, the better. They'll sell more at a lower price point. Second question in that set. If it is really a console and handheld hybrid with industry-leading chips, can it be priced less than $400? Sure. If the PS4 is $349 right now and the Xbox One is $349, by the time the NX comes out, it'll absolutely be able to be priced at $349. So I don't see that as a problem at all. I'm not sure what the console and handheld hybrid means or matters, nor am I actually sure that's what it's going to be. I mean, we are really light on details from Nintendo. They've been talking about a handheld experience in a console. I don't know what that means. For all I know, they mean mobile games on your TV screen. I do not know what they mean. Last time I checked, they are Japanese and they are inscrutable to me. I don't know what they're talking about most of the time. So they speak in Japanese. I'm reading bad translations, possibly. So I'm not sure if there's nuance in the language, and console with handheld features means something differently than it's being translated in English. I am incapable of interpreting this, so I don't know. All right, who will buy NX except Nintendo enthusiasts for that price? Again, we don't know what the price is, but the answer is, if Nintendo gets the same level of support for NX that it got for the Wii U, it's doomed before it launches. That's much, much more important than the price. If they get third-party support, if they make it in such a way that everybody can port every game over, and the incremental cost of development to make it for Xbox One and PS4 and NX is $1 million or $2 million, every game will be there. If it's a whole different language and requires a whole different programming scheme and requires something to do with the gamepad where you've got the controller that's different the way the Wii U works, it's doomed. No one's going to support it. I think the publishers are leery of Nintendo, the third-party publishers. I think they got burned by the Wii. They were never good on the Wii. They got burned by the Wii U, especially Ubisoft. So I think they're going to be very, very cautious. And so the more this thing looks like a PS4 and an Xbox One, I think the better it does. And ultimately, the only people who are going to buy it are people who don't have a PS4 or Xbox One, or people who have a PS4 and Xbox One and want to play Nintendo games. There's a lot of the latter, and by the time the NX comes out, assuming it comes out in 16, the PS4 and Xbox One will be barely halfway through saturating their potential installed base. So perhaps the NX will capture a third of that remaining market, because if you don't have either a PS4 and Xbox One and you can play everything on the PS4 and Xbox One except first-party titles, what are you giving up? You get all Nintendo first-party, and you're giving up, a handful of Microsoft first-party and a handful of Sony first-party. So it's going to be back to close to a level playing field, but it really depends on third-party support. Don't know what they're going to do. Don't know when the NX is going to come. Really know what Nintendo's got planned. We don't know many details. I am sure we're going to see something on the NX next year. I'm not sure when it's launching. So, when I hear more, I reserve the right to change my mind about exactly what things are going to do and how well they'll sell. Thanks for that question. Okay, we have a question from Twitter, from @TwitchForFun. If you were Kaz Hirai for a day, what would you change to help Sony's business? Wow, what a great question. I'm a Sony shareholder, so when you ask that question, I can talk about a lot of things in Sony's business that probably could be improved. I think they're doing everything right on PlayStation, so I would not change a damn thing on PlayStation. I think that their decision to stop first-party development for Vita is smart. I think they should redeploy those assets to making more first-party content for PlayStation. I think they will. I think they could do a lot better on the movie and television side. And frankly, they had an activist shareholder a couple of years ago who suggested that they become more transparent on the movie and television business and kind of break out, what their segment profits are. They're doing more of that. I actually think they should be very transparent. I think most of Hollywood screws up in kind of how they run those businesses. And Sony is probably not the best film studio and probably not the best television studio. I think they could shake that up a bit. And then I think they could probably get out of some of their other businesses. I mean, they have like an insurance business, which is very profitable, but it doesn't have a lot to do with the core consumer electronics and entertainment businesses. I think Sony as a conglomerate probably isn't as profitable as it would be if it were more focused on the things that it really excels at. And they could probably raise a lot of capital, getting out of some of the unrelated businesses like insurance. So if I were Kaz, I would take a hard look at maybe making the company a bit smaller and running it a bit more efficiently. I think he's a very capable CEO, and I think he probably will ultimately do the right thing, which is why I put my money where my mouth is, and I am a shareholder, and I'm actually a pretty substantial shareholder. So I have a lot of money in Sony, and I'm very happy to be a relatively large shareholder. Okay, we have a question from Twitter from Phantom. Will eSports ever become a mainstay on TV, or will events mostly stay online via streams, which will generate more money? Boy, I think that is an extremely insightful question. I'll do the best I can to give an insightful answer. The audience right now is not really a television audience. The audience right now is really an online audience. And the reason for that is that I think that younger people who play games kind of grew up in this online streaming world. They grow up with devices in their hand that can get on the internet, and they're very comfortable with consuming their data that way. The television audience tends to be older. The key demographic is 18 to 49. So, the older you are within that demographic, the more money you have to spend. The younger you are in that demographic, you tend to direct spending, so you get your mom to buy you something. But you notice it's not like 7 to 49. I think the eSports demographic probably skews younger. It's probably 12 or 13 to 30. And so, about half of that demographic is kind of outside the TV demographic. So I think it's going to, for sure, thrive online initially. And the question is, do those habits change as the core audience ages? The truth is that audience is likely to watch more television, just something that we do, it's a habit. But I think that they will continue to access content online, and I think TV is going to change as that younger demographic ages. So I think you're going to get things like Netflix, where you watch your television on demand, you get it when you want it. I think Netflix has already morphed onto a tablet, event. I mean, I think my kids watch Gossip Girl on their tablets all the time. And they have televisions, they just prefer to watch it on a tablet with the lights out in bed. And I think that's cool. So, I think that we're going to see consumption of conventional television change. And so ultimately, yes, I think there's a place for esports on television. Yes, I think it's going to take the backing of networks like ESPN, and they've already announced that they're going to do it. If you get enough money put behind it, I think that television is a great place, because you're going to have professional commentators, professional camera operators. It's going to be packaged well. You're going to have a director that's going to be able to switch different camera angles, and it really will make sense to a lot of people. And most people have never seen a live football game. I mean, we consume football by watching it on television. Most people have never seen esports, ever. So it really depends on where they first see it. When it's on television, it's going to get a bigger audience. To answer your question about which is more lucrative, the more eyeballs, the more ad revenue. So ultimately, television is the better opportunity. I don't know if that's going to change in 10 years where online becomes a better opportunity. As I said, television is morphing to more what they call over the top, where you receive it online. It's just the question is the monitor going to be the one that hangs on the wall in your living room, or is the monitor going to be the one you hold in your hand? I don't know the answer to that. It's premature to make that call, but I think it's going to end up ultimately being a hybrid of both. So great question. Our last question for this episode is from Twitter, from @AdamPrestige. What do you think of the new Nintendo CEO? I don't know the guy, so I have no real thoughts about him. I was not a fan of the late Mr. Iwata's leadership. I got a lot of crap on Twitter for saying, even though I wasn't a fan, I'm sorry that he's gone. I certainly wished him no ill, and he in fact was ill and died. And I never will understand why that was an issue with Twitter, because I didn't say, even though he was a dick, I'm sorry. I didn't say that. I said, even though I wasn't a fan, I did not want him to die, and I feel sorry for his family and his colleagues. I think it would be disingenuous, there's a word for you to look up, it would be disingenuous of me to pretend that I'd never been critical of Mr. Iwata. I was quite critical of Mr. Iwata as a leader. I don't think he was doing the right thing at Nintendo. So to answer your question, I don't know the new guy, but the new guy is an insider. He's a Nintendo veteran. He was one of the inner circle. The odds that he does anything differently from his predecessor are very low. So my guess is I'm not going to be a fan of him either, but I don't know the guy. So I'm going to reserve judgment until I meet him. He might be charismatic and incredibly intelligent and the most capable leader in the world. I really don't know. So I'm going to give him a chance before I say anything critical. My bias is he was one of Mr. Iwata's inner circle, and the odds are he is going to keep the ship on the same course, and I don't think that course was a very good course. I think the company lost its way. I think they are lost, and they're kind of cast adrift in the ocean, and the best skipper in the world isn't going to do anything, isn't going to change that if he keeps steering in the same direction. So Pachter Factor, we make bold predictions. So we have Ubisoft kind of embroiled with Vivendi. I'm going to predict that by the first half of 2016, Vivendi abandons its interest in Ubisoft, sells its shares back, and if I had to bet, there's something in corporate life called green mail. I think they're going to sell those shares back to Ubisoft. I think that Vivendi will hold the shares hostage, threaten to be a pain in the butt, and they will get Ubisoft to either borrow money or harvest its profits and buy those shares back directly. And so that is my prediction. I think it happens by E3 2016. Thanks again for joining us on Pachter Factor. Remember, you can catch this real time on sifted.net with a premium subscription. If you are willing to wait a week or you don't have enough money to be a sifted.net premium subscriber, you can catch us on YouTube for free. Thanks again for joining us, fellow babies. We'll see you next week.